Matters is graciously underwritten by New Vision Eye Center, world-class eye care on the Treasure Coast. New Horizons thanks Dr. Paul Minotti, Dr. Stephen Tate, Dr. Robert Reinauer, and Dr. David O'Brien. Now, here's Lisa Reimer.
Mental health matters. Yes, emotional well-being is vitally important, but it's more than that. Mental health issues impacts physical health. It influences your behaviors, and it can even dictate the course of a person's entire life. Hi, I'm Lisa Reimer, and I'm the host of Mental Health Matters and a communications officer at New Horizons of the Treasure Coast in Okeechobee. And for those of you who aren't familiar with New Horizons, we are the most comprehensive mental health and substance abuse agency in this region. We have 9 offices now in 4 counties. And we serve 14,000 children and adults annually, regardless of their ability to pay. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we never turn away anyone because of their lack of financial resources. Today's Mental Health Matters, we're going to speak with someone who is a school psychologist, so working with children in the school district of Indian River County. Joy Melton, thank you for being in the studio with us today.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So what is a school psychologist?
Well, a school psychologist is somebody who has specialized training in both education as well as psychology. Our goals are to make children successful in all areas, academic, socially, emotionally, as well as behaviorally. So we do lots of different things. We do a lot of training and consultation with parents. I do a lot of work with staff, teachers, and then individual group stuff with kids as well, counseling, social skills, anger management, those types of things. We look at different aspects of a kid struggling academically, try to figure out different interventions as well as behavioral interventions that may help the kid be more successful and help them kind of flourish in the school environment.
But does a school psychologist work in one school, or do they float around to different schools? How does that work?
It really depends on the district and the number of school psychologists they have. I've done it different ways. Sometimes we're more school-based, where we're in a school maybe part-time, 2.5 days a week. I've done that. And I've also worked as more itinerant, where I've had 3 different schools, and I kind of come in and do what's needed that day, or kind of an as-needed on other days. My next job, I will be just one school and kind of floating, helping out other psychologists. So excited about that, yes.
So tell me a little bit about the credentials of a school psychologist.
School psychologists have different types of degrees. You can be an education specialist, which is my certification, which is equivalent to a master's plus 30. They also have doctorate level school psychologists as well. So it depends. Both can work in the school setting, and then some can work in a private practice as well.
Okay. So, but you also have a degree in clinical psychology, don't you? So
yeah,
right.
I do. I started out in clinical psychology. Really wanted to do that. Wanted to work with kids in the private setting, and realized when I started doing that I had a lot of no-shows. Parents either didn't have transportation to bring the kid, and I had a really hard time trying to get good progress made because of that, those gaps in different appointments and that kind of thing. So after I started doing a little bit more research and learning about psychology in the schools and school psychology, I realized that was kind of a perfect fit, because the kids are required to go to school. They're there all the time, and I have ample access to them, so I could make more growth and gains when I was working with them in the schools.
So and what age groups do you work with?
I mainly work with elementary. That's the majority of my experience. I have worked with preschool through 12th grade, but the majority of my work has been with elementary school age kids.
So what kinds of things do you actually see? Like, we'll talk about maybe some of the outliers, but for the most part, what kinds of things are you seeing in children that require your services?
Yeah, a lot of times when kids come to me, of course, there's lots of struggles that are going on. In the schools, we have problem-solving teams where we sit down and we try to figure out where the kid's struggling and what types of things we can do. So there's always lots of difficulties, of course, with academic struggles, behavioral struggles. We always see lots of behavioral stuff, lots of referrals for what we think may be, or it comes to me as possible, ADHD or autism and those types of things. I do see some kids do evaluations for gifted, which is the total opposite spectrum. But we look at those types of things and try to figure out where the problems may be coming from, what's the root. And a lot of times when we look at the underlying issues, we're really seeing that a lot of these kids have backgrounds where they have a lot of different types of trauma or things like that are going on in their home life or out in the community that may be affecting their school performance and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on this show talking about the impact of childhood trauma. So, just to bring our listeners today up to speed, there was a do you want to talk about this? Do you want me to go ahead? Okay, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Which part would you like me to talk about?
Well, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and the Kaiser Permanente did a 2-year study in the 90s. They followed 17,000 people, adults, and they surveyed them on their childhood experiences, and then they tracked that to their current health and behavioral issues. And what they found was that there was this huge correlation between people who had multiple adverse childhood experiences, such as divorce, abuse, neglect. So, physical, mental, sexual abuse, instability about food and shelter, and also living with people who went to prison or who died by suicide or who family members who were divorced. Those issues were correlated with drug addiction and alcoholism, sexual promiscuity, and ultimately early death by one of the 5 major diseases like cancer, heart disease, lung disease, liver disease, and something else, and suicide.
Yes.
So now we know, and this is 97, they came out with the conclusions, and here we are 21 years later, and we still, this is not common knowledge throughout society.
Right. It's not common knowledge, but at the same time, it's very common experience. It's very rare that I sit in these problem-solving meetings and we come across the child who does not have that type of background. And just like you were saying, as far as the future ramifications, when they're an adult with different health conditions, as far as even immediate within the school setting, you see more discipline referrals, more suspensions, more expulsions, lower academic scores, difficulty getting along with peers. So even though there are long-term, we're dealing with a lot in the school system with the short-term, like right after those things happen when they're younger, trying to figure out how to help make them successful there as a preventative even to help offset some of those long-term things. So we're kind of intervening there in the earlier years.
Yeah, so we give a questionnaire to every one of our clients at New Horizons, with 10 questions. Asking about these adverse childhood experiences. Do you do anything like that in school districts?
We have a developmental history that we do with different students, depending on where we are in our problem-solving process. But we're always looking at that background information. And if we ever, get to a referral for an evaluation, of course, we're always looking at that social developmental history. So birth history, pregnancy of the mother, the different, if they smoked, those types of things. We're always looking at that, their developmental milestones. So we're looking for all of that to try to put all the pieces together to see how that all fits together with whatever the results of the evaluation may be, because that does explain a lot, even when babies are premature. That explains a lot about their development. But any history of trauma or those types of experiences that we've just talked about, also, like you said, it can have long-term ramifications. It can even stunt their growth.
Right.
Like there are developmental changes that happen because when they have those really significant trauma experiences. So those are very important for us to know.
Yeah, and I'm just repeating what I have learned from the experts, and they talk about the impact on neurological development.
Yes.
The growth of the amygdala, which is really sort of a primal area of the brain.
Yeah.
So that fear, flight, or freeze. Yep. And the lack of growth in the frontal cortex, where people learn their executive functioning and their learning skills. So that would explain if someone is going through abuse at home or watching, domestic violence in the home, that suddenly they're always in that fight, flight, or freeze, and they're not able to RRR, reading, writing, and arithmetic, right?
Yes. So. Yeah, and we do see that a lot. We I'm able to see, even with kids that I may not even know those backgrounds, if, a kid's really struggling and starting to have some behavioral problems, something different than we haven't seen before. A lot of our children aren't ready when they walk in the morning. They're not really ready. A lot of times, they haven't had food to eat. We don't know how much sleep they've had. There may have been some domestic dispute in the middle of the night. So a lot of our kids come in and they're already seem like they're in that heightened fight or flight to start their day. So, we have to really take our time and try to get them to kind of just calm, get centered, get focused, that kind of thing, and be able to take on the day, because they're even at that point not even ready. So if they're in that fight or flight all day long, they're not able to they're in the basics. They're just trying to survive. Even though they're in the school setting and it may be a safe setting, that's just their body's primed for that fight or flight.
So what kinds of things then do you do other than what you just, and we're going to talk more about that later in the show, about your mindfulness. How do you get them to center and focus? What other things are teachers doing in the classroom to sort of counter those trends?
Teachers, they try to do a lot of different preventative strategies in the classrooms. And a lot of them do have some of those calming morning times that they're able to do with the kids. The biggest thing I kind of recommend is, it's all about relationships. And, most teachers know this, but building a really good, strong relationship with a student, letting them know that, you do care about them, you love them, like that goes a long way, especially with kids with this type of background, because then they realize that they're more safe. But teachers being able to kind of have more of that trauma-informed sense of kind of understanding this kid's background and not taking different behaviors or situations personally. A lot of times that's something that really gets in the way, is when they're doing something or misbehaving and it's taken personally or out of context. We have to take a step back and really look at, where that behavior is coming from and how we can best support this kid from where their situation is bringing them from, looking at those different weaknesses that they may have or skills deficits, and trying to help them build those at that point, and giving them words for feelings or helping them better express, their feelings and their frustrations, so it doesn't come out physically, behaviorally.
Yeah, I was talking recently to someone from the Learning Alliance, and they had implemented a program at one of the Treasure Coast Elementary, I think it is. It's called Conscious Discipline. When, say, little Johnny is acting up in class, instead of sending little Johnny to the principal's office, they would bring the principal down into the classroom to teach, while the teacher gave little Johnny one-on-one attention, which is probably what he was desperate for.
Yes.
And so they saw reading scores rise astronomically. So that's sort of right along what you're talking about.
It really is, yes.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break.
Okay.
We're talking with Joy Melton, and we'll be back in just a moment.
If you need home or office cleaning in Indian River County, come to Vero Beach Cleaning, formerly known as Stupendous Cleaning. Our goal is to provide Indian River County with a specialized home cleaning. Whether it's a one-time cleaning or cleaning on a recurring basis, we will treat you and your family with dignity and respect. Call Vero Beach Cleaning today at 772-564-7839. That's 772-564-STU. Call for your free estimate.
Visit board-certified, fellowship-trained vitreoretinal surgeon Dr. Robert Reinauer at New Vision Eye Center. Vitreoretinal surgery is required to fix many of the diseases of the retina, macula, and vitreous fluid of the eye. Dr. Reinauer's core focus is the surgical care of the retina, including retinal detachments, medical treatment of dry and wet macular degeneration, and diabetic eye care. Your eyesight deserves world-class eye care. Visit newvisioneyecenter.com or call 772-257-8700.
Hi, this is Carolyn McAvoy from McAvoy Real Estate Company. I can help you find your dream home or business location. I do residential and commercial real estate brokerage up and down the Treasure Coast. I love what I do. I love helping people. I am at your service. Call today for a free valuation on your home or business. You know what I like to say? Buying and selling is a joy. Call today at 844-McAvoy. That's 844-MACEVOY.
It was Benjamin Franklin that said, beer is proof that God loves us. And it's easy to continue life's routine and seldom take risks, accepting a less than adventurous life with a less than adventurous beer. But for those of us who really understand and the art of making beer. That liquid pleasure, full flavor. Visit American Icon Brewery with 20 handmade beers brewed to perfection, always on tap. You'll see why they call it iconic craft beer. Historic diesel plant, downtown Vero Beach. Mention Planet Vero and get $5 off a $25 tab. Not valid on Mondays or during happy hour.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. I'm Lisa Rima, your host, and I'm in the studio at Planet Vero today with Joy Melton, a school psychologist in Indian River County. So we've been talking about what you're seeing in the schools and some of the issues that we've talked about quite a bit on this show already, which is adverse childhood experiences. If you want to go back and listen to the first half, if you missed it, you can always go to our Facebook page at New Horizons. It's called New Horizons Mental Health, and we put all of the shows there. And we also are broadcast live on Thursdays at 5:30, the drive time. So, okay. So you offer a mindfulness program. This is separate from what you're doing. I mean, you are doing this with your students at the school district, but you are also opening on the side a business of your own. What is that called?
It is called Joyful Heart Wellness. And this has been a dream of mine for several years. So I'm just now getting it going. So I'm glad that that's coming to fruition. I started doing some mindfulness stuff with kids in the schools, but then I've decided that I needed to kind of branch that out and offer it to other at-risk, or not even at-risk kids, but typical kids, at-risk kids, kids with special needs. What I've been
Well, let's go back. What is mindfulness?
Mindfulness is being in the moment, paying attention to the moment on purpose. So one of the ways that this would help affect kids is, if they're sitting there and they're overwhelmed with different emotions that may be going and feeling out of control, mindfulness helps them learn how to kind of pull it all in and shut out the outside world and pay attention to what they're feeling in that moment. So it does a really good job of helping teach kids how to breathe, how to de-stress, how to relax, how to feel in better control of their environment and what's going on in that aspect. Like one of the tasks that we may have them do while they're learning, because you have to teach them how to do it. So they're in those moments, those heightened states, they're able to pull those skills to be able to do them. So one of them might be having them close their eyes and pay attention to everything around them that they hear. So it might be the air conditioning, the clock ticking, those types of things. So you're teaching them to tune into those senses that they don't normally use, so that they're better able to focus and concentrate. It does help with like I said, attention, self-regulation. There's been studies that show that it helps with decreased discipline referrals, decreased suspensions, decreased expulsions, those types of things, as well as it helps teach kids more like a feeling of gratitude and being kind to other people. So it covers a lot of the basic skills that I feel that kids are missing in the schools. The schools do a really good job of trying to work on social emotional learning, and that's something. The focus is always on academics, so there's always a struggle trying to fit in those social emotional pieces. But I've seen kids respond so well with the mindfulness piece, and then just learning how to breathe, just taking time, closing your eyes, trying to, like I said, block everything out and breathe, focus, think about you, and try to, like I said, pull it all in, rein it in. So they're not controlled by those emotions. They're kind of in the moment and can deal with it at that moment, and then can move forward from there.
And this isn't, of course, just for children. The mindfulness practice, I mean, we're always that throughout our lives, right?
Right. And one of the things I'm going to be doing as well is doing mindfulness workshops for parents.
Oh.
I think that it's very, very important. Like, I want to teach the kids, but if I teach the kids and the parents don't know the skills either, then it's hard for the kids to keep practicing those, number one. Number two, I think it's very important for parents. We're always, as parents, we're stressed. We've got a lot on our plates, and a lot of times it's hard for us to stay in the moment in our everyday, work or whatever, but especially when we're parenting. So a lot of times when we're stressed and overwhelmed, that puts us in a place of responding reactively versus responding, more preventatively or proactively. So I think a lot of times, kids even pick up how we respond. They learn from our reactions. So if parents can learn to take better care of themselves and come from a place of more mindfulness within their own lives, and that'll carry over into their parenting skills,
Right.
then the kids are going to learn, they can help teach the kids those skills, because that's going to be one of the things in the mindfulness workshop for parents is how to teach the kids. And we'll invite the kids in and have a workshop and let them practice on how to teach the kids the skills. And they're things that they can do together and they can work on them together. So I think it's a better way to do that, with everybody kind of learning the skills at the same time, and they can all practice and reinforce that.
So is your new business, Joyful Heart Wellness, is that a workshop based, or is it group based? What tell me.
Well, it goes different ways, and we offer more than just the mindfulness and the yoga. I'm also a holistic health coach, and that comes into play, I think, a lot from a holistic perspective, because a lot of the kids that we do see, especially kids that may have ADHD or those types of things, there are lots of alternative methods and treatments and modalities that could be used with them versus just the traditional medication route, with the yoga and the mindfulness and meditation and those types of things. So nutrition, sleep, exercise, all of those things. So trying to pull all of that together. So I do that with kids and adults.
Individually or in groups?
As well. That's individually. And then we do the workshops is mainly. So that would be a group environment. I do individual work with kids and with adults for the mindfulness and the yoga. Right now it's mostly private and semi-private.
So you do a yoga?
I do. I teach yoga as well.
So are you a yoga instructor?
I am.
Okay.
I'm a registered yoga teacher as well as the holistic coach and the school psychologist.
That is so cool, girl.
Yeah, it all flows together. It all goes very well, and it all comes from, it started with my experience with yoga and mindfulness and how it affected me, and then just the holistic health coach. It just all came together, and then we have another amazing. It's a medical device that comes out of Germany that's considered energy healing. And that helps regulate the body, helps de-stress, helps with sleep and that kind of thing. So it all works very, very well together. And I've used all of those with great success with kids.
So what do you do? Why does yoga help? Instead of like running or just sitting down on the ground and stretching.
Well, I think those are good outlets too. Any physical activity is a great outlet, especially with kids. They need the movement. I don't think they get enough of that nowadays. But the yoga too, again, is kind of similar to the mindfulness in that you're bringing everything in, bringing the awareness in. I think yoga does a very good job. It's more of a you're not competing against anybody else in yoga. It's just you and yourself. The exercise is good. I think it helps teach discipline. It helps with flexibility. Different types of kids, like kids with autism and that kind of thing, it actually helps strengthen their core muscles. So there's lots of different benefits for it. But I do think that mind-body connection, getting all that together and helping regulate is very important. It goes along very well with the mindfulness.
So that is such a cool thing that you value, that you bring to actually the schools, that knowledge and awareness. Are you practicing some of this with the students in school?
I do.
Well, you don't get down on the floor with yoga, do you?
No. Some schools are a little particular about the yoga. I don't really mention a lot of yoga. We'll do exercises and we'll have specific, exercise yoga moves that we do. There's just a lot of people that still have that connotation that yoga is religious, and it's really not. It's a set of physical postures that you're doing. There's not a religious component to it when I do it with the kids in the school. So I do that, but it's more individual and that kind of thing. And like I said, one of the things I noticed with the meditation or the mindfulness is in kids that I was working with that were even on a behavior plan, we started noticing that the teachers would report she didn't know what I was doing. And she'd be like, what are you doing with them first thing in the morning on this day and this day? Because those are the best days of the week.
Oh.
And I was like, aha, there we go. There's a trend there. There's a pattern.
What are you doing?
And that was taking time with them, doing meditation, doing breathing exercises, and helping them just bring it all together, get centered for the morning. And then we would have an affirmation that we would say, and they had like a goal for the day, whatever it was. Today I'm going to, listen to my teacher and do this and do that. And that's kind of how they started their day. And they were just reminded of that as the day went on, that was their focus for the day. And they would have great days on those days when they set that intention and they took that time.
So if somebody was interested in getting a hold of you at Joyful Heart Wellness, how would they do that?
Well, the email address is joyfulheartwellness@gmail. My
.com.
.com, yes. And then that's the website. And then the email, though, still, yes, is the gmail.com. Sorry, I got confused there.
So you do have a website also?
I have a website. This is also joyfulheartwellness.com.
Okay.
And then the email is joyfulheartwellness@gmail.com. And then the phone number is 772-925-9551.
And say it once more.
What? The
phone number,
yes.
yeah.
772-925-9551.
Okay, and this has been Mental Health Matters with Joy Melton today and Lisa Reimer. If you want to know more about New Horizons, why don't you check us out online at www.newhorizonstreasurecoastinc.org. See you next time. Right.